Welcome to part 2 of the Kingdom of Heaven series. This series explores the keys which unlock the kingdom and allow conscious participation in its manifestation, in the great shift of consciousness, that is, which is currently taking place on planet Earth. These keys are all equal in importance, but the first key I will be looking at is the science, exoteric and esoteric, which provides us with an understanding of the true nature of our reality as human beings and of the universe in which we live. Our starting point for this will be the law of attraction teachings, which are currently attracting much attention in the spiritual community and which, at their root, encapsulate a scientific understanding of the connection between spirit, matter, and consciousness. In this video, I intend to pull together some of the threads of the current teaching about the law of attraction, religious, psychological, and scientific, and give as comprehensive an overview of it as possible, highlighting its obvious benefits and some serious pitfalls when consciously harnessing its power. At one level, the surface level, the law of attraction is appealing because of its potential for enriching the personal life in a way that is dependent on the contents of one's own consciousness rather than on some external agency. At the deeper level, when we can think in terms of the whole rather than the part, of humanity rather than the individual, its appeal lies in its role in manifesting the kingdom of heaven. The law of attraction is a spiritual or esoteric law. It is, that is, a law which operates at the deepest levels of reality and is not yet open to mainstream scientific investigation. At the present time, it could be considered an occult law. Other spiritual laws include the laws of mentality, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm or periodicity, cause and effect, and reciprocity. The law of attraction underpins them all, being the basic law of the universe, the attractive power which holds everything in the universe together, the energy of divine love, in fact. It is not an accepted law in mainstream science, not as yet, but it does have some resonance with conventional or exoteric science, particularly with quantum physics, and will increasingly continue to do so. The law of attraction teachings that have emerged into the public consciousness today formed a core part of the New Thought movement that emerged in the United States in the 19th century. A founding member of the New Thought movement was the American mesmerist and mentalist Phineas Quimby. As a young man, Quimby had suffered from tuberculosis, but when he realised that the medicine prescribed by his doctor was rotting his teeth rather than curing him, and that the excitement of riding a horse brought pain relief, he began to research the mind-body connection. Eventually, he was able to heal himself, and later to heal others of ailments which could not be cured by the medical profession. In letters and documents published after his death, he wrote that he was able to do this because disease was ultimately psychosomatic. Physiological symptoms were rooted in false beliefs. When these were corrected, then healing could occur. The New Thought movement, which emerged as a result of Quimby's work, was a loose alliance of thinkers and writers and various religious denominations, including the Swedenborgian or New Church. Prominent thinkers and writers such as William James, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and Swami Vivekananda were all in some way associated with it. Interest in the law of attraction grew and expanded into other areas of life, such as career, finances, and relationships. A spate of books ensued. Prentice Mulford's Thoughts Are Things, William Walker Atkinson's Thought Vibration or the Law of Attraction in the Thought World, Ernest Holmes' The Science of Mind, Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, Joseph Murphy's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. The list goes on. The core tenets of the New Thought movement held that an infinite intelligence, God, was the source of and pervaded the universe, that everyone had an inner divine spark, that the highest spiritual principle was to teach, heal, and love one another unconditionally, and finally, that our mental states manifested our daily reality. According to New Thought proponents, the law of attraction is based on the idea that everything, including people and their thoughts and emotions, is made from energy, and that energy attracts like energy. As such, our psychological states directly impact on our experience of life. Positive states attracting positive experiences into our lives, and negative states attracting negative ones. The reasons why some people succeed in life, in career, finances, relationships, health, and so on, and others fail, are not random but psychological. It is not, however, our conscious thoughts that create our reality, but our subconscious thoughts. Beliefs about whether we are worthy of success or failure in any or all departments of life are embedded deep within the subconscious during childhood, according to a script written by other people, by our families and society at large. And it is these subconscious expectations of life, or rather the energy, frequency or vibration produced by these expectations, that determine our experiences of it. More recently, interest in the law of attraction was boosted by Rhonda Byrne's film The Secret and a subsequent book with the same title and its sequel The Power, and continues to be so by a plethora of advocates, including writers and motivational speakers such as Louise Hay, Abraham Hicks, Greg Braden, Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton and Deepak Chopra, to name but a very few. Once we become aware of the law of attraction and realise we are creating our reality all the time without realising it, for good or for evil, we can use the conscious mind to retrain the subconscious, to free our conditioned selves from lack and poverty, from guilt and failure, and trusting that a benign universe prefers to see us living abundantly, consciously direct our thoughts towards better outcomes. Conscious thoughts alone, however, will not bring the desired results. In order to manifest desired experiences, we must raise our energy vibration by cultivating the appropriate emotions to match our thoughts: joy, gratitude, relief, and so on. We must feel, that is, as if our request has already been granted. Law of attraction proponents draw upon spiritual, psychological, and scientific sources to support their claims. From the field of religion, two of the most often cited quotes are from Jesus in the New Testament. "If ye have faith as a grain of mustard seed, ye shall say unto this mountain, Remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. And, all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive." In these two quotes we have the sequence of manifestation: asking in prayer, which means having a clear idea of what we want; having faith or believing, which means adding the emotion you would have if your prayer had already been answered to the vision of the desired outcome; and being grateful in advance for receiving. The essence of faith is to believe what we know to be true, not see it to believe it, but believe it to see it. From the field of psychology, the law of attraction gained in credibility from the association of renowned American psychologist William James with the New Thought movement. The son of a Swedenborgian theologian, James was a philosopher and psychologist who wrote widely on many topics, including mysticism, metaphysics, and religion. He also wrote on mind cure, which he saw as synonymous with New Thought. Around the time the New Thought movement was gaining ground in America, Freud was conducting research into the impact of psychical events on the physical body in Europe, and coming to the conclusion that it was the beliefs and repressed emotional contents of the unconscious that were expressing themselves in physical states. With regard to science, it is worth noting that the New Thought movement emerged around the same time that physicists were discovering the quantum level of reality. And the law of attraction, based on the notion that human beings, through the contents of their consciousness, are continuously creating their own material reality, either consciously or unconsciously, received considerable support from their discovery that consciousness and matter are somehow connected at the deeper levels of reality. As it turns out, the atoms of which all manifest phenomena are composed are by no means solid entities. They consist of 99.9% empty space, although space is not really empty, and a whole range of particles, which are in reality minute points of energy. As we penetrate further into the subatomic world, it becomes clear that there is no such thing as matter in reality. There is only energy. Atoms are whirling vortices of energy. At this level of our reality, we enter a world where the laws of nature, as we know them at our everyday level, do not seem to apply, and atomic particles, whilst acting with a mathematical precision that is proving very useful to technology, do some very strange things. Amongst other things, for example, they seem to appear from and disappear into nothing. They act on one another from a distance, a phenomenon called quantum entanglement, and they can, according to the famous double slit experiment, function as a wave or a particle. Modern scientists, many of whom not only acknowledge an equivalence between energy and information, but also propose that information is in fact the basis of the universe, have come to the conclusion that the particle must be a manifestation of a wave of information which resides in an abstract and geometrically precise realm of potential at a deeper level of reality. Furthermore, this manifestation is subject to a probabilistic rather than a predictive system where all outcome possibilities coexist simultaneously. Experimentation would seem to suggest that the probabilistic is collapsed into a particular event by the consciousness of the experimenter, the inference being that the contents and events of consciousness impact on matter. The early quantum physicists themselves realized that their emerging picture of reality displayed some strong parallels with many of the core concepts of the Eastern wisdom traditions. The main parallels drawn by physicists such as Schrödinger, Bohr, Heisenberg, Planck, and Pauli include the following: the recognition that the phenomenal universe is in a state of perpetual flux, and since everything is in a constant state of transmutation, nothing is permanent. The principle of complementarity, whereby two concepts mutually exclude each other but are both necessary for a fuller description of phenomena, a principle most elegantly expressed in the Taijitu, the Taoist yin-yang symbol which Bohr took as his coat of arms. The presence of a field or substance which underpins and interconnects all physical phenomena, and the deep-rooted interplay of matter and consciousness. During the 1930s, the Nobel Prize-winning physicist Wolfgang Pauli and the world-renowned analytical psychologist Carl Jung embarked upon a 25-year collaboration, during which they demonstrated, as summarized in the book of their correspondence, Atom and Archetype, that matter and consciousness must be connected at the deeper levels, and yet, despite the fact that modern science can no longer deny the abstract field of intelligent potential that lies at the source of the manifest world, because information implies some intelligence behind the information, the ramifications of quantum physics remain somewhat ignored by the mainstream scientific community. As might be expected in a world dominated by materialist values, quantum physics, having proved invaluable to a burgeoning technology, has been largely hijacked by a capitalized economy. Nevertheless, it is in these parallels that the spiritually awakening seeker after truth can gain much insight into the alchemically transformative process which lies at the heart of self-conscious evolution. It has become apparent to physicists that space is not really empty, that there must be some underlying field at a deeper level of reality in which waves of information, of probability and potential, of geometric precision and universal archetype can exist. This is in complete accord with ancient wisdom teachings, even though a completely different kind of language might be used. In Hinduism and Buddhism, for example, it is called Indra's net. Plato calls it the ideal realm. Is modern physics on its way to realizing, theoretically and experimentally, that what we call the three-dimensional manifest world is only one level of reality? And as esoteric science proposes, there are several increasingly subtle levels which constitute the bigger picture of reality. According to esoteric science, the increasingly subtle levels of reality, ranging from the gross material to the spiritual, are mediated by consciousness. But what is consciousness? According to esoteric science, it is produced by the union of spirit and matter, an answer which resolves some of the most intractable questions of existence. But for mainstream science, it remains the hardest of problems, and its materialist methodology has led it into a complete dead end. Science can describe as many neuroscientific correlates of consciousness as it likes, but because it bases its research on an assumption which is wrong, that consciousness is an epiphenomenon of the brain, it is unable to work out the exact relationship between consciousness and matter. This relationship can be better understood when we understand, as do the Eastern doctrines, and as do all spiritual traditions when their scriptures are understood correctly, that consciousness, which is produced by the union of spirit and matter, is all-pervasive, and the extent to which an entity can access or tune into consciousness is largely dependent on the complexity and refinement of that entity. How we view consciousness, of course, depends on our worldview. Do we live in a dead mechanical universe or a living organic universe? From the dead perspective, the brain produces consciousness, and we act out our 3D lives against a fixed backdrop of space and time, an illusion which is easily disprovable by science itself. From the living perspective, which is supported by all spiritual teachings, by Platonic philosophy, and by quantum physics, the universe is like a vast mind, which is conscious and which creates forms out of itself in order to experience itself more fully. But how do atoms or particles coalesce to form discrete and coherent forms, whether in the mineral, vegetable, animal or human world? Surely, given their perfect geometric order, there must be some unifying, form-making principle, some basic template or blueprint underlying the various manifest forms. In the human being, from the esoteric point of view, we might call this the higher self or soul, which comes into incarnation by gathering around itself the materials it needs to manifest during the process of conception and gestation in the womb, and it does this by the law of attraction. The soul, which is pure consciousness and which is on a higher, more rarefied, more subtle plane of reality beyond the 3D space-time continuum, incarnates as a physical body and maintains connection with it through the interface of an etheric or energy body. Every manifest thing is grounded in an etheric field, a bit like an iceberg in an ocean, through which it modifies its body of manifestation, the ether being all-pervasive. The energy body is composed of energy centers called chakras and channels called nadis, which correspond respectively to the glands and the nervous system of the physical body. There are three main nadis, the Sushumna, which corresponds to the spinal column, and the Ida and Pingala, which weave around the Sushumna caduceus-like, cleansing, clearing and vivifying the chakras and nadis so that the spiritual energy of prana can pass through them freely and descend to the center at the base of the spine to awaken and raise the female kundalini energy, the energy of primordial matter. The meeting of these two energies is called the holy marriage. It is an alchemical transformative marriage whereby the matter in which the soul has been incarnated can embark upon the process of spiritualization. The experience of being in psychophysical incarnation feeds back via consciousness into the soul and then feeds back again into the psychophysical, creating a constantly circulating system whereby expansion and refinement can occur on all levels and the vehicles can evolve. The soul inhabits a realm beyond space and time. Even exoteric science indicates that we are not simply chunks of lumpen matter acting out our lives against a fixed backdrop of space and time. Space and time are the relative constructs of the 3D world, the constraints of incarnation. The universe, of which we are an integral part, is constantly changing, is in constant flux, and according to the relationship between consciousness and matter, we are constantly producing those changes, constantly creating, whether we know it or not, for good or for evil. As I said earlier, It is the subconscious that does the creating until we become aware of the law of attraction and can consciously use our thoughts and affirmations to retrain the subconscious. Some might feel the need to access psychotherapy or energy healing to help clear the blocks, but we can transcend the subconscious through alignment with the soul, which transcends space and time, by living in the present moment, the holy instant, the powerful now. According to Eckhart Tolle and other spiritual teachers, it is a great relief to end rumination on the past and the future, which don't actually exist in the present, to end the psychological timeline that belongs to the lower time-bound ego, the pain body, which does not distinguish between psychological and chronological time. To live in the now, in the present moment, is to live as an eternal being in the presence of a power greater than oneself. The role the law of attraction plays in manifesting the kingdom of heaven is of crucial importance, but a word of caution perhaps needs to be uttered. The emphasis of law of attraction teachings is often placed on the manifestation of material things for the separated self: cars, houses, money, careers, relationships, and so on. Of course, there is nothing wrong with any of these things or the manifestation of them for personal use. We need to have things in order to function in a material world. Money is concretized energy, part of God's energy, and it is a necessary resource to be desired and cherished, a God-given resource to maintain the vehicle that conveys God's message. We need resources to serve the world and provide a living example of how the most basic law of the universe works. There is nothing wrong with abundance. It is our God-given birthright, and the power is within us to create it for ourselves. There is nothing wrong with creating. It is what we were created to do. This is how the universe of which we are a part works. We are creating whether we like it or not, on a continuous basis anyway. For the most part, law of attraction teachers, when teaching how to align vibrationally with the vibration of what we want, how to raise our vibration by cultivating a positive set of thoughts and emotions, joy, love, gratitude, and so on, do stress that the desired outcome matters less than the ability to manage our thoughts and emotions better, to feel good, to spread good vibrations in the world. However, the paradigm shift that is currently taking place on this planet will involve the whole of humanity and not the separated individual. We must be group-oriented in everything we think or do if we want to manifest the kingdom of God. Since the law of attraction is in fact descriptive of love, the basic law or energy of our universe, then our creating and manifesting must be done in love in order to create outcomes that are in line with universal law. And true divine love is selfless, not in the sense of a martyr-like self-denial where we have to go without so others can have, but in the knowledge that we are all individual parts of a greater whole, and the well-being of each of us is dependent on that greater whole. If any cells in the body are not working properly, then the whole body suffers. Our interconnectedness is a demonstrable fact on many levels, and while opening up to group consciousness, we should remember that every thought, word, and deed affects the whole of which we are an intrinsic part. This merely calls for a maintenance of perspective, seeing the bigger picture, much as Buddha meant when he said the lower psychophysical self was not real. Of course it is real at the everyday 3D level, but it is only a minuscule part of the magnificent being we truly are from the higher perspective of being. It is also a question of motive. To be fair, most law of attraction proponents do indicate that the law of attraction should be in the service, or at least within the context of spiritual awakening and the wider evolutionary shift that is taking place. We just have to be careful, since we are playing with the natural magic of the universe, that when we become conscious of this power, we do not use it for selfish reasons, but rather for unselfish reasons. The real aim should be to align with higher consciousness in order to produce higher things. The Kalachakra Tantra, and by extension all ancient scriptures, are aimed at self-conscious evolution, spiritual transformation, and the collective effort to transform the world. One of the ways we can do this is through creative meditation. I will address the science and practice of meditation in a later video, but for now it is worth mentioning that the conscious use of the law of attraction is greatly aided by the mental discipline produced by regular meditation. By achieving a perfectly still and pure mind through meditation, we can allow perfect forms to arise, and by meditating deeply on these forms, we eventually, through the electrical alchemical process, begin to embody these forms in ourselves. The next step is to manifest them in the wider reality of which we are an intrinsic part. As such, we should not suppress or kill desire, we should purify desire. Desire and intention are part of the law of attraction, but the primary desire should be for alignment with God consciousness, for clarity, understanding, compassion and love. The law of attraction should, in other words, only really be used spiritually rather than materialistically.